Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaura Premanandi. The plan from the evening programs I was hoping to conduct while here was to cover the phrase that's being used here as flow, or just set it down. The overview, 30,000 feet picture of landscape of Cantos 1 through 6, Srimad Bhagavatam. And looks like we're not going to make it. We're here at the final section of Canto 5. As you see, chapters 16 through 26. Vedic Cosmology. And I'll wager a guess that those of you that are participating in the Srimad Bhagavatam reading groups, when you get to this section, it'll be the most difficult section you'll have to deal with in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, complexity-wise. And to try to summarize it in 1 hour, it's laughable. So what we're going to be, I'm going to show you some things, some of which are very entertaining and simple, and some of which are inconceivable. And don't worry about it if it's inconceivable, because it's inconceivable. But it's important. The topic, my experience after a number of years of Krishna consciousness, very difficult subject to understand is the universal form. There's some other subjects that are difficult to understand, but universal form is one. And to make it a little more complicated, there's different categories of universal form, and there's different subcategories of those categories of universal form. For example, one of the categories of universal form is those that are actually seen, like chapter 11 Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna saw the universal form. And Mother Yasoda, looking within Krishna's mouth, she saw the universal form. And there's other examples of actual seeing of the universal form. Duryodhana saw a partial manifestation of the universal form. He saw. And the others in the assembly also. A second category is that which is literally imaginary. And a third category is the universal form that's understood by hearing. And those that are understood by hearing, there's variations. I don't need to repeat. It's a little complicated. And that's our topic for this afternoon. There's 11 chapters, and it's here's a little simple overview of what we're going to be sharing. Shukadeva Goswami describes the geography of Bhumandala. Bhumandala, it's the plane of this middle planetary region, Bhumandala. Upper planets, lower planets in the middle, Bhumandala. Geography. especially Jambudweep. Well, these terms will be defined as we go along. And Mount Sumeru, and the descent of the Ganges from higher regions. That's really interesting, a whole chapter on that. That's it's similar to, but different from, the description that's found in Ramayana. You know, in Ramayana, Vishwamitra Muni describes to Ram and Lakshman the descent of the Ganges. It's similar to, but different from, that description. The prayers of the residents of Jambudweep to incarnations of the Lord are also given in this section, 16 to 19. And then 20 through 26, Vedic Cosmology and planetary systems. Shukadeva Goswami describes the 7 oceans and 7 islands that they surround, Lord Brahma's lotus flower, the sun's movements, the planetary orbits, the Shishumar planetary system, Dhruvaloka, the lower planetary systems, Lord Anantadev, and the hellish planets. Hope you have your seatbelt fastened. We're going to about take off. But before we take off, this is a little graphic to show, essentially, this description is beyond a two-dimensional description. There's in the lower left, that's a fellow with a telescope, and he's seeing something. And then he's trying to describe that something by mapping it out. And it's a two-dimensional map to give a picture of what one may see with one's eye. Now you can make a three-dimensional something, but the Bhagavatam is multidimensional. Now what does that mean? Well, it's beyond our experience. Multi-dimensions. Modern physics speaks about it. And who has experienced it? Yogis and people that have extrasensory perception can experience it. But otherwise, we'll have to, it's the third category of universal form. It's by hearing it. And it's not easy to understand just by hearing it, because we're used to what we see, we can to some degree understand. But this is a third-dimensional, multi-dimensional existence. Those of you that were with us with earlier sessions, you'll remember in the first chapter of Canto 5, we heard how Bhumandala became divided. Here's the verse. When Priyavrata, remember Priyavrata? When Priyavrata drove his chariot behind the sun, the rims of his chariot wheels created impressions that later became 7 oceans, dividing the planetary system known as Bhumandala into 7 islands. So we're going to see what that looks like through visual parts. So now, remembering from Canto 5, Chapter 1, about what happened, so now Maharaj Parikshit's asking a follow-up question. Here's the follow-up question. When the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its external feature made of the material modes of nature, the gross universal form, it is brought to the platform of pure goodness. If you don't meditate on the universal form, it's quite okay. But there are those that do, and those that do have this benefit. It's a meditation on the external energy, external feature of the Lord, made of the modes of nature, and it's the gross universal form. But it brings the mind to the platform of goodness. That's the benefit for those who do it properly. In that transcendental position, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who in his subtler form is self-effulgent and beyond the modes of nature. O my Lord, please describe vividly how that form, which covers the entire universe, is perceived. The reason for pointing to this verse in particular is at the very beginning, the request is, please describe the universal form. At the very end, Shukadeva Goswami says, I've described the universal form. So everything in between is a description of the universal form. And it's not easy to understand it, but that's the description. It's the 5th canto description, which is different than the 3rd canto description, which is different than the 2nd canto description. How do we have different descriptions of the same thing? A nice example, very nice example. Some of you are familiar. When Krishna and Balaram, Krishna having killed Kuvalyapita, broken off the tusks, Balaram's got one, Krishna has the other, and they're walking into the wrestling arena of Kamsa. And there's a verse that describes 11 different people that saw the same person in 11 different ways. So if 11 different persons can see Krishna in 11 different ways, then different descriptions, even by Shukadeva Goswami, can describe different features of the same thing, or different angles of vision of the same thing. That's how our little mind can process. There's different descriptions of the same thing. It's the same thing, it's the universal form. Now we're going to go to the concluding chapter of this section, 26. 3 verses. In the beginning, that is Shukadeva Goswami saying, in the 2nd and 3rd cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, I've already described how one can progress on the path of liberation. In the Puranas, the vast universal existence, which is like an egg, divided into 14 parts, is described. This vast form is considered the external body of the Lord created by his energy and qualities. It is generally called the Virat Rupa, which is the universal form. If one reads the description of this external form of the Lord with great faith, or if one hears about it and explains it to others to propagate Bhagavat Dharma or Krishna consciousness, his faith and devotion in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, will gradually increase. Now, gradually is a nice word. How long is gradually? Depends. But it's an authoritative statement. Although developing this consciousness is very difficult, by this process one can purify himself and gradually come to an awareness of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So that's what we're doing. It's not going to fit inside your mind. You go, oh, now I get it. It's not one of those experiences. So don't expect it. Next, one who is interested in liberation, who accepts the path of liberation and is not attracted to the path of conditional life, is called yati, or devotee. Such a person should first control his mind by thinking of the Virat Rupa, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, and then gradually think of the spiritual form of Krishna, Satchitananda Vigraha, after hearing of both forms. Thus one's mind is fixed in samadhi. By devotional service, one can then realize the spiritual form of the Lord, which is the destination of devotees. Thus his life will become successful. Now many of you know that Srila Prabhupada, even in the earlier days of the Hare Krishna movement, Prabhupada spoke about a desire to establish a structure, a planetarium that would depict this fifth canto Srimad Bhagavatam. And he gave it a name, Temple of Vedic Planetarium, TOVP. You've all heard TOVP one way or another. So what I'm about to show you is a little video clip, 3.5 minutes long, depicting the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, what it's going to look like, or a video simulation of what it's going to look like. And the voice that you'll hear narrating with an Australian accent is the person that's taken responsibility for the project. Antar Dweep is his name, and where it starts is at the bottom of the universe. The first image that you see here, that's Lord Anantashesh with his many hoods. Below Anantashesh with his many hoods is the Garbhodak Ocean. And with his many hoods, he's holding up the universe. And then we're going to go up. The up is the 7 lower planetary systems. And then Bhumandala. And then we get a little panorama tour of Bhumandala. It has different divisions. And it's very important to us because that's where we are. And then above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka, Svargaloka, and above that, we keep going. Well, I'll mention, above that is Dhruvaloka, because in the 4th canto, we heard about Dhruva, and he went to Dhruvaloka, so we're going to see Dhruvaloka in this presentation. It's at the topmost region of Svarga. It's above Svarga. Svarga is below it. And just below Dhruvaloka is the Sapta Rishis, the planets of the 7 sages. Or in our Western lingo, it's the Big Dipper in the sky. Planets of the 7 sages. And then there's places above the heavenly realm and above Dhruvaloka. And we'll see them quickly. Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Brahmaloka. And then we'll see the coverings on the universe. We keep going. The TOVP, the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, is going to show all this. And here's a 3.5 minute video that will show it to you. It's much simpler than the rest of what's going to happen this evening.
So at the bottom of the planetary display, we have Shesha holding up the Earth. This is Shesha. Just speaking Bhagavatam to the full Kumaras. And above the...
I'm going to go back. I don't think I need this. I don't need the microphone. Okay, here we go. What happened? Okay.
So at the bottom of the planetary display, we have Shesha holding up the Earth. This is Shesha, the empowered incarnation. Then we have Ananta speaking Bhagavatam to the 4 Kumaras. And above, the 7 subterranean planets. Here we can see Jambudweep, the central island of Bhumandala. And Bharatvarsha is situated on the southern side of that. It's 8 other Varshas, with Ilavrita Varsha in the center. Various sporting mountains with large trees upon them, described in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the very center of Ilavrita Varsha is Mount Meru, Golden Mountain. Atop Mount Meru are the cities of important demigods, Lord Brahma in the center, the 8 Dikpalas in the cardinal directions and sub-directions. Moving out, we can see the broader Bhumandala, 7 concentric islands and oceans surrounding them. The 7th of these islands is Pushkaradweep. On that island is Manasotra mountain. On the mountain there's various cities of demigods such as Indra. Out further is Loka Loka mountain. These large elephants stand atop Loka Loka mountain to balance Bhumandala. Outside of Loka Loka mountain is Aloka Varsha, which is dark. The rays of the sun and the other luminaries extend up to Loka Loka mountain. On Manasotra mountain here on Pushkaradweep, the sun travels above this mountain at the southernmost point of its annual orbit. Above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka, which is the residence of the Charanas, Siddhas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, and above there is Swargaloka, beginning from the sun and extending up to the pole star Dhruvaloka. This is the moving part of the planetary display.
The part that's moving, those golden rings, because the other is not going to move. But the moving part is the heavenly realms up to Dhruvaloka. And there's different parts in this heavenly realm, which will, see that that's one of that here is the moon and here is the sun. And we'll see them moving. Watch carefully. And they're moving with, they're moving with the wheel of time. Kala Chakra, the wheel of time. And the wheel of time moves clockwise. So that you'll see, watch carefully, you'll see it. The wheel of time is moving clockwise, but the chariot of the sun is moving slower, but counterclockwise. So it looks like he's moving backwards, but he's moving. It's in 5th Canto. I'll pause there and just make a little explanation. Hearing from Shukadev Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit says, wait a minute. Before you said the sun is moving clockwise, and now you just said it's moving counterclockwise. So that sounds like a contradiction. Can you explain? And so it's two motions simultaneously. And the answer, really far out, the answer is, just like on a potter's wheel, the potter's wheel may be moving very quickly in a clockwise direction. And there may be an ant on the potter's wheel that's moving very slowly in a counterclockwise direction. So similarly, the wheel of time that moves everything in the universe, ourselves, not just, the planets, but everything. The wheel of time moves everything. Because the time is a Shakti, is a force that moves. It's moving in a clockwise direction. But the sun is like the ant that's very slowly moving in a counterclockwise direction, or he says anti-clockwise direction. Listen carefully. And the moon similarly. Now this is looking at a vertical picture of this higher dimensional universe. Another detail. I've never seen one of these, but Sadaputta speaks about an instrument that was used in navigation from ancient days called an astrolabe. Astrolabe. That's what this thing that's moving is. You see around the outside are the signs of the zodiac. What's that? The signs of the zodiac are 12 in number, and it marks, people that are navigators in ships. They could see the stars in the sky because there's no street lights and city lights. They could just see, when there's not clouds in the sky, they could see the sky. And based upon their astrolabe, they could then say where they are in the ocean. Latitude and longitude was calculated by the astrolabe, or you can do it the other way. Based upon latitude and longitude, you can calculate where the primary constellations are. And the time in Vedic astronomy, then in terms of Vedic astrology, is the sun passing through these 28 constellation of stars. And in the course of 1 month, the moon moves through them. A little complex. But that's what you're seeing. All those little bright stars and things, those are the 28 nakshatras. And over there, right here, that's the moon moving with the wheel of time in the clockwise direction. There's the sun also moving in the clockwise direction, but they're actually moving in the counterclockwise direction, moving, the moon specifically moving through the nakshatras, or nakshatras in English is a smaller constellation of stars than the big constellations, the zodiac constellations. It's complicated. Down here, this one, these he mentioned, so this isn't filled in, we're going to see it filled in, but this is the rings of islands that are circular in shape, and this one is Pulakshadweep. These four are the protectors of the directions. Dik-pala, pala means protect. The protectors of the directions, Indra, Varuna, etc. They have residences there. They have residences elsewhere also, but they're protecting the directions, and that's where they are. And this seventh island, Pulakshadweep, and on that Pulakshadweep there's a mountain range, circular in shape, and Manasotra, and it's above Manasotra mountain that the sun moves. You're going to hear these terms again, so if you haven't processed them, don't worry. But Manasotra is the mountain range above which the sun moves. And it takes 1 year to go all the way around. The wheel like this, in 24 hours it goes around. But for the sun to go the anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, it takes 1 year. That's when the sun is moving. That chariot right there, that's the sun. It's moving above Manasotra mountain in that direction. And then above that is other heavenly planets. And this vertical dimension, it runs from Mount Sumeru, going up, 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 and it bumps into Dhruvaloka. After I do this, we'll run it through a second time, and maybe at the end I'll run it through a third time, just because this is the simplest of all of what you're going to see. Okay, sorry about that. Govinda. Govinda.
So at the bottom of the planetary display, we have Shesha holding up the Earth. This is Shesh, the empowered incarnation. Then we have Ananta speaking Bhagavatam to the four Kumaras, and above the 7 subterranean planets. Here we can see Jambudweep, the central island of Bhumandala, and Bharatvarsha is situated on the southern side of that. It's 8 other Varshas, with Ilavrita Varsha in the center, various supporting mountains with large trees upon them, described in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the very center of Alavata Varsha is Mount Meru, Golden Mountain. Atop Mount Meru are the cities of important demigods, Lord Brahma in the center, the 8 Dikpalas in the cardinal directions and sub-directions. Moving out, we can see the broader Bhumandala, 7 concentric islands and oceans surrounding them. The 7th of these islands is Pushkardweep.
Pushkardweep.
On that island is Manasutra mountain. On the mountain there's various cities of demigods such as Indra. Out further is Loka mountain. These large elephants stand atop Loka mountain to balance Bhumandala. Outside of Loka mountain is Aloka Varsha, which is dark. The rays of the sun and the other luminaries extend up to Loka mountain. On Manasutra mountain here on Pushkara the sun travels above this mountain at the southernmost point of its annual orbit. Above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka, which is the residence of the Charanas, Siddhas, Yakshas, Gandharvas. And above there is Swargaloka, beginning from the sun and extending up to the pole star Dhruvaloka. This is the moving part of the planetary display. Here we can see the sun and the moon moving in their chariots. The chariots are being drawn by horses moving in the anti-clockwise direction, but they're traveling with the wheel of time moving in the clockwise direction faster. So it looks as if they're moving backwards. Above them are the zodiac of stars, more planets, and another realm of stars. So here we can see everything moving with the Kala Chakra, circumambulating the axis that connects Mount Meru with Dhruvaloka. Above these planets, we come to the planet of the 7 sages, the Saptarshi. You can see them here, they're commonly known as the Big Dipper. And then Dhruvaloka, the pole star. On the ocean of milk situated there, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is the Paramatma within everyone's heart, he resides on Anantashesh. Moving up beyond there, we have Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. In this video, we haven't included many of the details for there, but on Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, we have residences of the Lord, such as Lord Varaha, Vamana, and so on. Here's Brahmaloka, and on Brahmaloka, we also have a form of the Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu as the Sahasrashesha Purush. Beyond there is the 7 coverings of the universe, earth, water, fire, etc. And outside of the universes is the abode of Lord Shiva, Shiva Loka.
Those are the coverings.
There he resides eternally.
And then Shiva Loka.
Beyond Shiva Loka, we come to Mahavishnu, Karanodakashaya Vishnu, with innumerable universes that are emanating from the pores of his transcendental body. Here you can see him being served by Rama Devi. Then we come to the Brahmajyoti, the effulgence of the Lord's transcendental body. Penetrating through the Brahmajyoti, we come to the Vaikuntha planets. We're showing 24 planets of the Vaikuntha realm in this model. The Lord with 4 arms is holding the conch, disc, club, and lotus, and the various combinations of those 4 make 24. Then we come to Goloka Vrindavan. Here we can see Radha Madhava, but we'll also be showing the other primary rasas. Krishna with the cowherd boys, Krishna being served, Krishna with Mother Yashoda. So this is an overview of the planetary display to be shown in the main dome of the temple.
In the concluding section, one more verse is this one, chapter 26, verse 40. My dear king, this is Shukadev speaking, I've now described for you this planet Earth. Other planetary systems and their lands or varshas, rivers and mountains. I've also described the sky, the oceans, the lower planetary systems, the directions, the hellish planetary systems, and the stars. These constitute, one more time, the Virat Rupa, the gigantic material form of the Lord, on which all living entities repose. Thus I've explained the wonderful expanse of the eternal body, external body of the Lord. Because that was what was asked at the beginning of chapter 16, and everything in between is what he's saying, he's explained. Take a deep breath. Here we go. Bhumandala. Now this is graphics, and it's well done. It's some devotees that are kindly gave me their work on describing visually two-dimensional pictures of Vedic cosmology. So we're starting with Bhumandala. Now Bhumandala is not the same as Bhugola. Gola means sphere, and mandala means flat, topography, basically. So mandala, Bhu mandala. And here's Bhumandala. It's round, and on top of Bhumandala, what you see there is that Sumeru, golden mountain. It's really tall, and now we're seeing the sun. There's the sun shining. Yeah, it's kind of glowing. And then on the other side of Sumeru, there's darkness. So we read in chapter 1 that Priyavrata didn't like that. The half the universe was dark. So what did he do? He got in his chariot, which was really bright, and mounting his chariot, he started going in the opposite direction as the sun. And he moved clockwise like the sun moves. So there's the sun moving. And as he moved one time, the wheels of the chariot made ruts in the ground that became an ocean. It was a big chariot. And then the axle started to expand, and he did it again. Went around a second time. And he made another ring of island and ocean. And we're just going to do that 7 times. Here he goes. Made another. This is just showing visually what's in Canto 5, chapter 1. He made these 7 islands. And his purpose was so there would be light everywhere. And of course we know there's now day and night, it's not just light everywhere. But he kept going and kept going and kept going until he had 7. This is Bhumandala, having the configuration that it has today. 7 islands, circular islands, with 7 oceans in between those 2 islands. Okay, that's Bhumandala. One picture of it. Here's another picture of it. So it's the bottom half of the universe. That's that egg-shaped thing there, that's the universe. The bottom half is the Garbhodak Ocean. And then above that Garbhodak Ocean, there's 7 lower planetary regions, and then there's Bhumandala, which you see the 7 rings. And then above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka and Svargaloka, and then the other 4 up above that. That's what you see in this diagram. Here's another showing on the upper left, that's the ocean, the Garbhodak Ocean, in blue. And then there's this dark area. Remember Aloka Varsha? Aloka, you can't see it, it's dark. And then there's this mountain range, Loka mountain range, it's just really tall. And the light of the sun and other luminaries that's inside. So that golden area inside, that's where we are. And in the upper right, there's the, zoom in a little bit, that's the circular mountain range with light, and then these 7 islands. And then again, at the bottom left, that's the light and the 7 islands up closer. And the bottom right, that's where we are. So 7 islands of Bhumandala. I hope you got that part. And then in the center, there's Sumeru. There's Sumeru. And Sumeru is on top of Jambu Dweep. Jambu Dweep. Dweepa is island. It's a central island. The other islands have different. Remember that Manasotra mountain is on Pushkar Dweep. That's ring number 7. The one at the center, that's where we are. That's Jambu Dweep. And Jambu Dweep has Sumeru, and Jambu Dweep has 9 tracts of land called Varshas, one of which is Bharat Varsha. Everyone goes, yeah, that's my place, that's Bharat Varsha. Like, Naperville. Or wherever you're from, Punjab or Gujarat or Tamil Nadu or something, your place. So Bharat Varsha is not just India, Bharat Varsha is the planet. It's Gola, the Earth planet. We'll see pictures. And now here's a more detailed of what you see in this slide. Here's a more detailed one, which I'm not going to go through. But here on this Pushkar Dweep, there's Pushkar Dweep. And here's the direction where Varuna lives, where the moon god lives, Dipaveri. Here's where Indra lives, down here is where Varuna lives. Here's the central Jambu Dweep, and other islands with their names. And what's the dimension of all this? From the very center of Jambu Dweep, where Sumeru is, all the way out to this upper range of Manasotra mountain ring. How many miles? All of this is in the Bhagavatam. Within the term is in yojanas, and then the conversion from yojanas to miles is 1 yojana equals 8 miles. There's different ways of calculating, but that's one. So this says what's in the oceans. There are different things in the ocean. Not all ocean, saltwater ocean. There are different ones. There are different islands of different dimensions. This is called the Golden Land. And this dark, this very, very, very tall is the Loka mountain. And then the area outside is dark. That's Aloka Varsha. Okay. That's Bhumandala. Next, we're going to take a closer look at the central island of these 7. That's Jambu Dweep. Okay, so at the center of Jambu Dweep is a very tall golden mountain that you've never seen before. You've never seen a mountain where it's tall, it's wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. You've never seen one like that. And I could say something further, but I'll skip it. There's some very tall mountains with trees at the top surrounding Sumeru. And what's intended in the upper left is again that picture of the bottom half of the universe is blue. That's Garbadak Ocean. Zooming in and then zooming in. So there is the central island, Jambu Dweep. Notice there's mountain ranges going horizontally on two sides, three mountain ranges, and we're going to see more details, kind of like little islands surrounding the central island, Jambudweep. But check this out. There's Bharatvarsha. See that little earth there? That's where the earth planet is in relation to Bhumandala. So sometimes we say Bhumandala, and we think that means the earth planet, or sometimes we think the earth planet means Bhumandala, but they're not identical. It's a Varsha, or a tract of land, that's in that region, Bharatvarsha. Okay? And now we're going to build that Jambudweep, that central island that you see there. So there's the earth planet. And then there's Sumeru. And there's a mountain range. It's the Himalaya mountain range. And then there's another mountain range behind that, and there's another mountain range behind that. And the valley in between the two mountain ranges is where the Varshas are. In the Varsha that's just on the other side of the Himalayan mountain range, now don't think of just, your topography of India today. This is the higher dimensional place where there is a relation between the higher dimensional and our dimension, but don't try to equal them. The region in between Himalaya mountain range and the next mountain range is Kimpurusha Varsha. Kimpurusha Varsha is where Hanuman is. And he's with some of his devotee friends. And they're singing the glories of Ram. And on the other side of that mountain range is Harivarsha, and that's where Prahlad is. Not where Prahlad is. Yes, where Prahlad is. Glorified Lord Nrsingadev, Harivarsha. And then there's another, on the other side of Sumeru, another mountain range, and another mountain range, and another mountain range. So you do the math, and you now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Varshas, and there's a total of 9. And the central Varsha, there's one to the left, one to the right, and one in the middle. The one in the middle is Ilavrita Varsha, and that's the middle Varsha in Jambudweep. And in the center of that is where Sumeru is. It's going to depict this again, one more time in a different way. There's the Garbhodak Ocean, big waves and splashes. And in the center of that, there's the saltwater ocean. You see the bottom right? Saltwater ocean. That's the ocean surrounding Jambudweep. Then there's Jambudweep. And then there's the central island, central Varsha, and Ilavrita Varsha, and there's Mount Sumeru. Now we're going to look again. There's Sumeru, Jambudweep, Ilavrita Varsha. Mount Sumeru extends largely above, but there's some portion of it below. And here's some dimensions. The entire Jambudweep, the entire Sumeru, is 100,000 yojanas, or multiply 8, that's how many miles. And only part of it is above and the other part is below. There's the yojana number, 84,000 yojanas above, 16,000 yojanas below, making a total of 100,000. And the distance, the diameter of Jambudweep is the same as the height of Sumeru. Okay, so there's some other dimensions. Now, here's the names of these other mountain ranges, the ones in the northern region, the one in the southern region. So you see Himalaya, and Bharatvarsha is down at the bottom. Kimpurusha Varsha is on the other side, and there's the mountain range, and Hari Varsha is on the other side, and the Lavatra Varsha. So this is just a description of Bhumandala, or the Jambudvip portion of Bhumandala. And it gives dimensions, how much wide and what's the height of everything, and there outside is the saltwater ocean. There's the saltwater ocean. We're doing it a few times, so you get the picture. There's the mountain ranges in the northern region, mountain ranges in the southern region, and the Varshas in between. So when you hear Bharat Varsha, next time you hear Bharat Varsha, you'll probably think of this little drawing. It's not just India, or it's not even just the Earth planet. It's a whole Varsha, part of which is the Earth planet. It gives dimensions in the Bhagavatam. Okay. Now here's the whole thing all built. Now we're going to zoom in. Oh, there's 9. So Elavrita Varsha is in the center. There's 3 above and 3 below. 3 plus 1 is 3 plus 3 plus 1, that's 7, right? And then there's 2 more. Ketumala Varsha and Bhadra Varsha. And there's a mountain range that separates out the central Varsha, Elavrita Varsha, where Sumeru is. So now we're going to zoom in, and it gives dimensions of everything. Okay. Now we're going to go out. Plakshadweep is the island outside of Jambudvip. So there's the ocean of salt water in between Jambudvip and Plakshadweep. And then on the other side of Plakshadweep is an ocean of sugarcane juice. Don't ask me how it got there. But that's the description. And then you go out further, and we're going to see another ring. Of course, this is just whatever you call it, someone's graphic work to show something, so you can have a visual of this, that something. Sumeru's still in the middle, and there's mountains on top of each of these rings. And the next is Shamali Dweep. Now, those of you that like to read carefully, where did Govardhan descend to? It descended to that place, Shamali Dweep. That's where the sage that brought Govardhan Hill to its present location found Govardhan. Govardhan descended from the spiritual world to that place because there's a Shamali tree. That's how it got its name. I'm just mentioning, because when we read these, I'll speak for myself. When I read these things, it's like, what? And then every now and then, oh, that's what is. And so this is just a depiction by some graphic person showing the rings and the islands. Next island outside is ghee. The next island is surrounded by milk. Next island is surrounded by yogurt. That's the white one. And the final one, Pushkar Dweep. You remember Pushkar Dweep? That's the mountain upon which there's Manasotra mountain, above which the sun moves. Look at that, there's the sun moving, but it doesn't move exactly on top. If you heard, I was listening carefully. It's not exact, the movement of the sun is not exactly circular, it's kind of elliptical. And there are places where it elliptically, it exactly crosses, hovers above Manasotra mountain. And there's other places where it's, out beyond Manasotra mountain, that is inside Manasotra mountain, because it's not exactly circular. wheel of time moves in a clockwise direction, but the sun is not moving in exactly a circular, it's moving in an elliptical pattern, kind of above Manasotra mountain. Okay, so there it is. That's the sun moving around Pushkar Dweep, or above Manasotra mountain, with these things that are inside, rings of islands and oceans of different things, different substances. And then we're going to go to that really, really large mountain range that's outside. Remember the name? Loka Mountain. And on the other side is dark, called Aloka. You can't see. So that's the Loka mountain range, very, very tall. And so the light from the sun stays inside. You see there's the sun moving around. And the other luminaries, also giving light, but it's inside. So there's the sun zooming around Manasotra mountain. And this is a depiction, graphic depiction of fifth canto. Now what's that up there? It just appeared. Let's go back. What was that? That's the moon. What? Yes, the moon. The moon, by vertical dimension, the moon is above. By horizontal dimension, at vertical dimension, the moon is above. So the moon is moving too. There's flashing. And there's other planets that move in this upper dimensional region. Look at that. A whole bunch of them. Now they're moving in relation to the sun. But the one that's leaping up there, it's not moving. What does that mean? That's Dhruva. Dhruva means steady. It doesn't move. And so the upper planets, they're moving in a clockwise motion beneath the Dhruva Loka in relation to the sun. And then you get the whole virtual picture of the planets above Bhumandala, and they're zooming around. There's a whole lot of them. Okay, so that's the picture. Now we're going back to Jambudweep with these mountains that have treetops on the side. We'll go back to the little video of the TOVP at the end. But there's the Golden Mountain, and around the sides, there's 4 tall mountains with tall trees on top. And it gives dimensions of everything in yojanas. So, Elavrita that's this center one. See at the bottom, Elavrita. And then there's these other varshas in the other directions. So there's Sumeru, and the mountain ranges that surround Sumeru, and the varshas that are outside those mountain ranges, with Elavrita Varsha being in the center. And then these taller mountains that we saw with the treetops on top of them, there's 4 of them, they have names, and it gives their dimensions, how long and how tall. And there's trees on top, and there's different types of trees. One's a jumbo tree, the other is a mango tree, etc., etc. And they, when in season, they become ripe and juice flows down the side of the mountain, according to the 5th Canto Bhagavatam. Gives the height of the trees. Down in the right corner, the height of those trees. Sugarcane juice, jumbo juice, rose apple. Jumbo is a rose apple kind of fruit. Anyway, We'll just keep going because it's so you can see details and details and details. We can get the topography and the ingredients and, what's it like in Jambudweep. This is now the central island of Jambudweep. We're getting filled up here. And what happens, notice, let's go back a few. At the descent of the Ganges is coming up. So one of the things that happens with the descent of the Ganges is it falls, there's things that happen before it falls on top of Sumeru. When it falls on top of Sumeru, it goes down the side of Sumeru. There's one on the right side, one below. That's Jambu juice flowing towards Sumeru, This is not Ganges. Okay. This is all things that are happening inside. Where do you start reading all this in your reading groups? Okay, now comes the descent of the Ganges. Now everybody knows the Ganges. It's sacred. But how does the Ganges come into our place? There's a whole chapter, and it looks like this. The path of the Ganges is, Vamana puts his toe through the covering of the universe, and what's on the other side of the covering of the universe is the causal ocean. And when it falls from the causal ocean into this universe, it falls on Dhruvaloka. And from Dhruvaloka, it goes to the Saptarishis. And from the Saptarishis, well, there's airplanes. What? There's airplanes that carry, like tankers. And it carries the Ganges from the Saptarishis planet to the moon planet, from the moon planet to Meru, which means that in a vertical dimension, the moon is above the top of Meru. And then it goes from Meru down to the lower planets. Right? That we know from Ramayana. It's also in the Bhagavatam, the sons of Sagara, all of that. To get to deliver the sons of Sagara. Bhagirata brought the Ganges down. There was a whole thing how he did it, but he did it. And went down to the lower planets. Peaks of the Himalayas, Haridwar, and the plains of India, purifying the entire land. So we're going to see several images that help us understand all this. That disc there in the middle, that's Jambudweep, and the rod that runs up and down, that's Sumeru. So the Ganges goes, you look at the up at the top. There's the causal ocean. The Ganges flows through the washes the feet of Vamana. It descends to Dhruvaloka, and then to the Saptarishis, and then it comes to the moon planet, and then to Mount Meru. And then from Mount Meru, it goes in 4 directions with different names. So there's that, remember that image, the top of Meru, that has Brahmaloka in the middle, and then, in the cardinal directions and the subdirections. Cardinal means north, south, east, west. Subdirections means northeast, north, southeast, etc. So there's abodes of various personalities, Yamaraj and Agni and Varuna and so forth, and they're presiding over and protecting the universe from the top of Mount Sumeru. It's kind of like a summer home or something like that, or a second residence. And so the Ganges falls on top of Brahmaloka and then flows in 4 directions. And then if it flows in those 4 directions, it goes down. And there's tributaries as it flows down. So here's the picture. At the top, that same top of Mount Sumeru is called Brahmapuri. And then there's the river Ganges flowing down in those 4 directions. There's one. Well, you see flowing down, hitting the top of Brahmaloka on one side. And it moves across the mountain ranges. See those little blue things? It moves across the mountain ranges into the saltwater ocean. Then there's another mountain range, another flow of the descent of the Ganges. It goes in the other direction. There's no mountain ranges in between. Now down here, the Alaknanda is going to come down here. So that Earth planet, or Bhumandala, not Bhumandala, Varsha, on the other side of the Himalaya mountain. So it goes here, it goes here. And then it comes to the earthly planet from the Himalaya mountains. So where did it come from before it hit the Himalaya mountains? Now, some people would want us to understand it's just a glacier melting. But the Bhagavatam doesn't tell us it's a glacier melting. The Bhagavatam tells us it's the descent of the Ganges in the way that we're showing here. And then the other direction. Here we go. There's the descent of the Ganges going down. There is no three mountain ranges to cross, so it just goes into the saltwater ocean. That's a whole chapter describing that. Here's another picture. There's the Earth planet, and surrounding the Earth planet is this saltwater ocean. There's Gola, or the Earth planet. There's Sumeru, and there's the mountain ranges, and there's the descent of the Ganges going in these four directions. And it gets to the Earth planet, and our Mother India. So in this is now describing the Varshas. There's Kim Purusha Varsha. There you see Hanuman worshipping Ram. And the Ganges flows over that mountain range into Kim Purusha Varsha. And there's another Varsha besides that one. Hari Varsha, that's the first one. And in Hari Varsha, that's where Prahlad is worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev. And then there's Bharat Varsha, and that's where the Ganges flows into the earthly realm. That's another chapter. Wasn't so difficult. The movements of the sun is a little more, we touched on it already. So it's describing in the Bhagavatam, the sun god moves riding in a chariot that has an axle and a wheel, and one side, the wheel is mounted on Manasotra mountain, and the other side of the axle is mounted on the top of Mount Sumeru. And it moves. There's the axle, there's the top of Manasotra mountain, and the sun. And so the axle, the distance between the top of Manasotra mountain and the axle, that's the height of the sun above Bhumandala. The sun moves above Bhumandala, and from the sun above that, that's Swarga. And from the axle down to Bhumandala, that's Bhuvarloka. What's Bhuvarloka? We heard, but I'll say it again. It's where Gandharvas and Kinnaras and Apsaras and Vidyadharas and Siddhas and all those personalities have their residence. They're not heavenly, they're Upadevas. Just a description of the structure of the universe. So here's a side view. Down at the bottom, there's the Garbhodak Ocean. There's Anantashesh we saw in that little video. and he's holding up everything. And there's the 7 planetary subterranean, so it's below Sumeru. There's Sumeru. Below Sumeru is the 7 subterranean planets, 7 lower planets. Check it out. Down here, there's 28 hellish planets. It's just like a little skinny area. So hell is below the 14 planetary system. It's just a little sliver compared to everything else. This is the local mountain range, really big, even bigger than Sumeru, really big. And then you'll see, other planets. Here's the sun, things that are below the sun and things that are above the sun. These are things that are above the sun. The moon, Venus, Mars, Saturn, they're going to start to move. Somebody really spent a lot of time. Wow, there goes Saturn. There goes Mars. There goes Mercury. There goes Venus. There goes the moon. The sun has to start moving. The sun is moving. That's the sun. That's the sun moving. The moon moving. So that's our planetary system, according to the Vedas. Now we're looking from the upper picture, looking down. There's Sumeru and the different islands and so forth. Local mountain range is over to the right. The sun is moving in a clockwise direction, but slowly moving in a counterclockwise direction. And then down below is the hellish planets. And Anha Kamas, pit of darkness. That's where we don't want to go. That's a bad place. So this is, I believe this is local mountain. No, this local mountain. This is the region of darkness. And then this is where the covering of the universe. So this is the region of light. And then we have these, 7 islands. And now the sun, I think, is going to start moving around. And then we have our Earth planet. It's half, this thing of half light and half darkness, depending upon the position of the sun. It's described that the sun moves like this. There's the Manasotra mountain, there's the wheel, there's the sun on its chariot, or the axle of the wheel, and Mount Meru is the other end of the axle is on top of Mount Meru, and it moves. Like that. More details. So there is a connection, no surprise. There's a connection of, listen to this, ropes of air. You ever see a rope of air? The planets that move are moving because there's ropes of air that connect them with Dhruvaloka, and as Dhruvaloka moves, the ropes of air move and the planets move. And there's this Dakshinavara, wind, that move the ropes of air as well as Dhruvaloka moving. So even Dhruva goes up here. Remember the air of the universe got choked up when he was doing this suspending like air? He's controlling, Dhruva is a powerful little boy. Now, and he's controlling the movement of planets, including the movement of the sun. So there's a picture. There's Dhruvaloka. There's a little dotted line, that's the ropes of air. And The whole thing is moving in addition to the Kala Chakra, the Wheel of Time. It's moving through the movements of the ropes of air and the other planets as well. There's a Java Greek. We're going to do a little construction with the different islands and so forth. Slowly. There's Pushkar Greek and Manasotra range, and it gives dimensions. And all these things are falling out of the sky. Those are the controllers of the protectors of the universe in the various directions. And they have their place of residence. We said this before, on top of Manasotra Mountain, the four directions. The sun's moving, and there's all these nice detailed dimensions of everything. It's all in the Bhagavatam, and when you read it in your reading groups, okay. I'm not going to do all this. Okay, there's the sun. It's going to move. There's the Loka mountain range. Now, those of you that know a little bit about astrology, you know about the zodiac. And, you know, so I'm not going to go into astrology. It's too involved. But the movements of the sun is connected with the zodiac, and the movement of the moon is connected with the zodiac. We mentioned this already. The sun moves in a counterclockwise motion, but with the wheel of time, it moves with a clockwise motion. We mentioned this already. Ants are moving in the counterclockwise, but the wheel is moving in the clockwise. So seasons are arranged by the movements of the sun in its counterclockwise direction. The day and night is by its clockwise direction. Clear? Confused? Vedic system includes following Varnashram system and worshiping the Lord as the sun. We read, in fact, in 5th Canto, of how Bharat was worshiping, through Gayatri Mantra, was worshiping Surya Narayan to achieve spiritual perfection. When those who are Brahmanas and chant Gayatri Mantra, Brahma Gayatri Mantra, they're worshiping like this. They may not know all these astrological things or astronomical things, but the principle is worship of the Lord of the sun. Okay. Then it gets into astrology. The moon moves faster than the sun. In the course of 1 month, by lunar calculation, the sun covers 2.25 constellations. I'm not going to do it because it's too difficult, too complicated. But, you know, say a month is, we say 30 days. But, anyway, I'm not going to go into it. It's too complicated. If you're going to go to an astrologer has to know all this stuff. And the relative motion of the sun and the moon through the nakshatras. I won't go into it. Did you ever wonder why sometimes the time for breaking Ekadasi is long and sometimes it's really short? It has to do with this. Because it's not just one day. from Dwadasi, from Ekadasi to Dwadasi. It's not just 24 hours. That's the sun's 24 hours. But the moon isn't just 24 hours. So we go by the next Dwadasi day has to do with the moon. It's a lunar calculation. And it's not 24 hours. Day and night. It's not 24 hours. It's different. So sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. I'm going to skip it. Okay. The moon travels faster than the sun. Now they're both moving by the wheel of time moves the same. The clockwise direction, the 24 hours movement is the same. But the moon moving in its counterclockwise direction moves faster. It's closer to the axis, and it thus moves faster. The sun is further from the central axis point, Sumeru, and it moves slower. The moon creates day and night for the demigods during its waxing, and the day for the Pitris during the waning. Maybe you should skip Canto 5 when you do your Bhagavatam reading groups. Because the moon is full of potentialities, it represents the influence of the Supreme Lord. Okay, moving along. Demigods protecting the directions on top of Manasotra Mountain. We mentioned that several times, those 4 positions. And there's the 7 upper and the 7 lower planetary systems. You see in the center, there's this upside down dolphin, kind of bluish, translucent thing. What's that? That's Shishumar. What's that? According to the research that I've done, it's something that yogis meditate upon. It's not like an upside down dolphin in the sky, but it's a mental picture. Remember I said there's 3 different types of universal form. This is the imaginary one. There's no dolphin hanging upside down in the sky. But it's a method for meditating upon the higher planets by certain yogis that follow that system. That's what Shishumar is. See across the top, Shishumar planetary system. It's the upper planetary systems depicted in this way. There it is from a vertical position. They see that bright light at the top? That's Dhruvaloka. You see those strands dangling from Dhruvaloka? Those are ropes of air. It's described in the 5th canto. And as the ropes are moved by this Dakshinavara wind, and Dhruva planet moves, rotates, the planets rotate. Okay, up at the top, another picture. That's Dhruva Loka, way up there. Then these are the other planets in a vertical dimension. These guys, those are the nakshatras. And this dark planet over there, guess who that is? Rahu. This whole region, this is the sun. Below the sun, I think this is wrong, because, no, it's right. It's above Bhumandala, but below the sun, because above the sun is Swarga. So below the sun is what? Bhuvarloka. And Rahu is in that Bhuvarloka region. So there's everybody's moving around fast. Up on the top, that's the Saptarishis. This is just a graphic way of showing what's going on. and the planets are moving in their orbits very nicely. Rahu's moving, and so astrologers, they know when Rahu is in conflict with something, and you get turned upside down in your astrological chart. So this is the moon moving through the different nakshatras. This is the sun moving in its orbit, and those are the movements of the planets in our universe. Okay? Here's it says what they are. There's the pole star, the Saptarishis, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Venus, 28 constellations, the moon, the sun, and our friend Rahu. And down below is Bhumandala. And there's in the center is Mount Meru. And it gives dimensions, so I'm just going to move along. So that's the same moving things. These are the 7 lower planetary systems. Down here is the unfriendly place, the habit regions. And these are the coverings of the universe, and it describes what they're made of, it describes how thick they are. Above Dhruvaloka, that's the separation, making that motion here. Dhruvaloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Sattaloka. You want to know what goes on in these places? You can read Brihad Bhagavatamrita to give some description. The Bhagavatam doesn't give much about those places. Sanatana Goswami and Brihad Bhagavatamrita does. You really like to find it. So, Meru extends above Bhumandala and below Bhumandala. That's the lower planetary system, the hellish planets, and the Garhana Ocean. There you see that same depiction. That's the hoods of Ananta. And remember, on top of Ananta, then those hoods, that's where Ananta is giving a Bhagavatam class to the 4 Kumaras. It's one of the disciplic successions, correct? The Kumara Sampradaya. Who'd they hear from? Ananta. Below Ananta, there we see Kurma. See that tortoise? And then notice on the top, there's those 4 elephants. And that outer planetary region outside of Pushkar Dweep, holding up, balancing the planets. I'll read. For the earth, the resting place is Lord Shesha. For Lord Shesha, the resting place is the great tortoise beneath him. For the tortoise, the resting place is the wind. For the wind, the resting place is I myself. That's from Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Krishna Janma Tanda. Want to know what Pitriloka is? Pitriloka. Pitriloka is below Bhumandala. The planet of the ancestors. Dhruvaloka, Saptarishis, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Venus, Moon, Sun. Somebody was asking, one of the children was asking, how to get the names for the days of the week. There's where you get the names of the days of the week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In case you want. Okay. There's Dhruvaloka, energizing everything. There's the planet moving. Okay, there we go. There's the nakshatras. Moon moving through the nakshatras. Sun moving below that. Our friend Rahu doing his thing below that. There's the 7 lower planetary systems, and below that are the hellish planets. Now, Pitruloka is not a hellish planet. It's a fantastic, it's a very celebrated place. But, and it's a detail, I won't go into it. It gives dimensions, and the siddhas, charanas, these are all in the Bhuvar Loka region, the Bhuvar, Svarga Loka. So from the sun up is Svarga Loka. The Yakshas and the Rakshasas, they also have residence in this Bhuvar Loka region. Now sometimes they come, like, Ravana would come and hang out in Lanka and, in Afghanistan. So they can move around. They can go in the upper planets also. Ravana was able to go, where he wanted to go. They have powers. They can go. Yakshas have mystic powers too. The Siddhas, they have powers. The Gandharvas and Apsaras, they have powers. But, that's in this region, below the sun and above the earth, above the moon. Just above the Garbhadra Kosha is 28. Then at the end of that section, hellish planets, it says there's unlimited numbers. There's 28 principal ones, and they're not nice places. So Lord Ananta holding up the whole thing. There's some hellish planets. We're going to skip the hellish. Yeah. Let's get the hellish planets. So I'm going to go now back to this little video, and we'll get to see it again. Listen to the words that he speaks, because it's very precise. This is the person speaking is in charge of the whole TOVP. He didn't do the graphics; their team did the graphics, but he gave direction to them, and then we're done. Yay!
So at the bottom of the planetary display, we have Shesha holding up the Earth. This is Shesha, the empowered incarnation. There we have Ananta speaking Bhagavatam to the 4 Kumaras, and above, the 7 subterranean planets. Here we can see Jambudvip, the central island of Bhumandala, and Bharatvarsha is situated on the southern side of that. It's 8 other Varshas, with Ilavrita Varsha in the center, various supporting mountains with large trees upon them, described in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the very center of Ilavrita Varsha is Mount Meru, Golden Mountain. Atop Mount Meru are the cities of important demigods, Lord Brahma in the center, 8 Dikpalas in the cardinal directions and sub-directions. Moving out, we can see the broader Bhumandala, 7 concentric islands and oceans surrounding them. The 7th of these islands is Pushkaradvip. On that island is Manasotra mountain. On the mountain there's various cities of demigods such as Indra. Out further is the Lokaloka mountain. These large elephants stand atop Lokaloka mountain to balance Bhumandala. Outside of Lokaloka mountain is Aloka Varsha, which is dark. The rays of the sun and the other luminaries extend up to Lokaloka mountain. On Manasotra mountain here on Pushkara Dweep, the sun travels above this mountain at the southernmost point of its annual orbit. Above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka, which is the residence of the Charanas, Siddhas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, and above there is Swargaloka, beginning from the sun and extending up to the pole star Dhruvaloka. This is the moving part of the planetary display. Here we can see the sun and the moon moving in their chariots. The chariots are being drawn by horses moving in the anti-clockwise direction, but they're traveling with the wheel of time moving in the clockwise direction faster, so it looks as if they're moving backwards. Above them are the zodiac of stars, more planets, and another realm of stars. So here we can see everything moving with the Kala Chakra, circumambulating the axis that connects Mount Meru with Dhruvaloka. Above these planets, we come to the planet of the seven sages, the Saptarshi. You can see them here, they're commonly known as the Big Dipper. And then Dhruvaloka, the pole star. On the ocean of milk situated there, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is the Paramatma within everyone's heart, he resides on Anantashesh. Moving up beyond there, we have Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. In this video, we haven't included many of the details for there, but on Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, we have residences of the Lord, such as Lord Varaha, Vamana, and so on. Here's Brahmaloka, and on Brahmaloka we also have a form of the Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu as the Sahasrashirsha Purush. Beyond there is the seven coverings of the universe, earth, water, fire, etc. And outside of the universes is the abode of Lord Shiva, Shiva Loka.
That's the covering.
He resides eternally. Beyond Shiva Loka, we come to Mahavishnu, Karanodakashaya Vishnu, with innumerable universes that are emanating from the pores of his transcendental body. Here you can see him being served by Rama Devi. Then we come to the Brahmajyoti, the effulgence of the Lord's transcendental body. Penetrating through the Brahmajyoti, we come to the Vaikuntha planets. We're showing 24 planets of the Vaikuntha realm in this model. The Lord with 4 arms is holding the conch, disc, club, and lotus, and the various combinations of those 4 make 24. Then we come to Goloka Vrindavan. Here we can see Radha Madhava, but we'll also be showing the other primary rasas, Krishna with the cowherd boys, Krishna being served, Krishna with Mother Yashoda. So this is an overview of the planetary display to be shown in the main dome of the temple.
Do you know how long we've been here? It's 7:20. We've been here a long time. I'm surprised there's so many people still here. What's that? I don't know if we should we do that? Because we've been sitting here for a long time. Short ones. Let's see how short. I don't think we should go into a question answer session because it's very complicated. And we've been sitting here for a long time. You're very kind to sit here for as long as you've been sitting here.
The Garbhodakashaya Vishnu is, as we always know, he's at the bottom of the universe. But in one of these slides, you said that there is a, what is that?
Sahasrashirsha Purusha.
Yeah, Sahasrashirsha Purusha above Brahmaloka.
He can manifest himself. It's a good question. I had the same question. And the explanation I was given by Antardweep is he can manifest himself in various places, and that's one of the places he manifests, because Brahma worships him. So he manifests himself for Brahma to worship him.
Okay. The other one is one of the slides, there was a quote, I forgot which Purana it is, which said Ananta Shesha is resting on Kurma, and Kurma is resting on air.
Wind.
And,
Wind.
and wind is resting on the
Me.
Lord, on Lord, right?
Yes.
So that Kurma, is that Kurma avatar?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. That's all. I don't want to take
No,
much.
the Lord can manifest himself anywhere, at any time, without any reason. So we know the churning of the milk ocean. That's not the Garbhodak ocean. It's the milk ocean.
Right.
And he can manifest himself there, and he does.
Yeah.
And we also heard, that in these upper planetary regions, it's not found in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, but Varaha and other forms of the Lord are found in those upper planetary regions. So the Lord can manifest himself wherever he likes. And in the 7 layers of the universe, coverings, there are forms of the Lord in those coverings also. That's in Brihat Bhagavatamrita.
Okay. So one last one is that beyond Loka mountains, that dark region,
Yeah.
and beyond that is the 7 coverings of
Yes,
the universe.
correct.
And so that dark region, is it like more of a space?
I don't know what it is. It's dark. Other than it's dark, I don't know what it is. So don't ask it again, because I don't know. It's a dark region.
I'm done. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. I think we'll end. Now, there's something is giving of certificates and all the nice stuff. That's probably why people haven't left yet. Just if they're-
She's not here. Ankita Patel Mataji. Anagha Sharma.
What do you want me to do? Okay, there you go. Does everybody know when to come forward? You told them.
Amrita Kelly Mataji.
All right.
I don't know who's Amish Trivedi, Prabhu. Anasuya Mataji. Ananti Mataji. Chintamani Mataji. She's not here. She's not here. Krishna Porila Prabhu.
Don't want to give the wrong one.
Kathamrita Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Megha Mataji. Monica Mataji, Pooja Singh Mataji, right here. Rachna Mataji. Rupa Mataji. Sandhya Mataji. Sumitra Mataji. Sundari Leela Mataji. Sunita Mataji.
Wait a minute, make sure.
Bamsadari Prabhu. Shaurya Mataji. Shilpi Mataji. Vasanta Mataji. She's on here. Vijayalakshmi Mataji. Lungaraj Prabhu Youth. Yashomati Mataji.
Your sister.
It's not you. You're not Vijay Lakshmi.
Sister-in-law, that's... She's not here, that's his sister-in-law.
Oh.
Yashomati Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Amba. Anusha Mataji.
Anusha Mataji. Shri Kishore Prabhu. Sure.
Anusha Mataji. Sumitra Mataji, you want to take for Anusha Mataji?
Radhe Mataji. Anusha Mataji.
Yeah, two of them, pretty good.
So thank you all very much for joining for this evening program. You want to say nothing? Oh, yes, yeah.